That's how her self-esteem is going to be built back up to the point where she can take charge of her life and be an independent, viable member of our society again.
Is that kind of like a time frame? I mean, is it
a time frame to do that?
I mean, 30 days, is that really enough time?
Well, 30 days gets someone directed in the right direction. Support services are available once she leaves us. I mean, we always encourage them to continue coming back for support services, group support, individual support. You know, recovery from anything is a process.
Okay.
So recovering and rebuilding your identity and rebuilding your self-esteem is a process. So it's something that's got to take place over time. If she can buy into giving it time and working a process of recovery, then she can really build back her self-esteem.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back in just a second for more information with Ms. Jane Taylor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jane Taylor. I'm coordinator of shelter services at the United Family Services Shelter for Battered Women. Our 24-hour crisis line is available for anyone in the community that needs to call us for safety, for information, for volunteer opportunities, or just general counseling services. I want to give that to you now. It's 704-332-2513.
Thank you for returning. Again, my guest is Ms. Jane Taylor from the Shelter for Battered Women. Ms. Taylor, let's continue this conversation about the Shelter for Battered Women. I know you're talking about you provide service for the women and the children. How do you assist the children in that type of situation?
Okay. One thing to understand about children in the domestic violence homes, the trauma of witnessing violence in the home is damaging to a child as child abuse itself. So what we try to do is gain an assessment on the children as to how the violence and the living situation has affected them. We have a children's counselor that works individually with the children as well as a group, in a group setting. We also do parenting classes every other week. She works with the moms and the mom's relationship with the children. So we do as much as we possibly can in helping mother with her relationship with her children, which a lot of times that relationship is damaged in a home where there's violence. So we try to build those bonds back up, assess how the child's been affected, develop safety plans with the children as well as with the moms, and then give them the support and a voice, allow them the opportunity to be able to tell someone and to hear from other kids their experiences, and putting them also on a process to healing.
Okay. Are the children allowed to return back to their original school, or do they go to a different school, or how does that?
Well, there's a federal mandate, the McKinney veto mandate, that states that a child that's living in a shelter or a homeless situation the school system has to provide transportation in order to keep that child in their same school setting. So if it's safe for the children to remain in their same school, we want them to do that. The busing will pick them up and from our facility, take them to school and back. And children in their classroom will never have to know that they're living in a shelter. It'll be a very normal process for the children as far as the school setting is concerned. So I think it's the best not to have to transfer them at that stage, because they may have to transfer down the line depending on where mom has to move. So we like to keep them in their school if possible, and because of the federal mandate, we can do that.
Wouldn't that create some type of issue as far as the other individual who's doing the domestic violence when they go back to the school and probably get some information from the child as far as where?
Well, it all depends on the safety concerns. We can assist our women and children through the court system. We have a court program at Victim Assistance, so we can assist them to obtain restraining orders. And in the restraining order, you can ask for temporary custody.
Okay.
And you can ask for the perpetrator to be kept from the school, from wherever they're taking shelter, from her work setting. And so there are different levels of protection there. So if it's safe, then the school, if they're given that restraining order, they won't give out that information. So that's one way of securing that safety for the children.
Correct. I guess that's very important, because I guess the father or whoever's doing that type of thing, he would go to the school and try to talk to the child and see exactly where they're located at and try to make up with the mother or whatever, and that may create a problem with them getting into the system. Okay, I know you talked about volunteers. Do you do you have volunteers coming to your program, and how do you screen them to be a volunteer?
We do. We use volunteers on several levels. Our biggest need for volunteers right now is working with the children. We can use volunteers for special events, for fundraising events that we have. We can use them for helping us administrative, filing, answering the phones. If anyone's going to have direct contact with clients or children, they do need to go through background checks, police checks. So we would ask for quite a commitment of time for something like that. We have opportunities for groups that can come in if they'd like to come in and prepare a meal to bring it into the shelter. If they want to have a theme party, maybe at Halloween or one of the seasons of the year, groups can come in. So we can get very creative with people that want to volunteer, but they would need to call the same number. We can talk to them about it and get them information on volunteering.
How about donations? Someone wanted to donate some, what type of
money?
Money, yes ma'am, that money, great, money. And what other type of things are you?
Well, we keep an active wish list.
Okay.
So there are items that we need periodically, and that changes according to donations that come in. So if anyone's interested in making donations, they can call us and find out what our needs are at the time. Of course, our needs certainly are financial. They're always financial. There are always financial needs, but we also need products, cleaning products, paper products. So there are household things that we need all the time as well.
Okay. I know you talked about funding. That's a big thing that's going on right now with the cuts and all that. How are you surviving? How is the program surviving with these cuts?
United Family Services, our agency, we were very proactive in the funding issue, and we started well over 6 months ago cutting our budget because we were in anticipation of cuts coming to us, particularly the United Way cut fundings. So we started cutting at least 30%, and we've done that and worked with that over the past 6 months. And unfortunately, we had to lose some staff. We had to cut out all-frills, that sort of thing. So we're, now that we've received our funding cut, we are really sitting in a pretty good position because we've worked our way up to it, to this point. Of course, the state and federal monies could be cut in the future. We don't know that. We get some federal, some state money, but right now we're okay because of the proactive stance that we took over the past 6 months.
What do you envision Shelter for Battered Women a year from now?
A year from now,
Yes, ma'am.
we hope to break ground for our new facility.
Okay.
We are going to be going public in November with the capital campaign to reach the community. So we would hope next year that we're going to be breaking ground for this new facility. I mean, I think that's a very realistic goal for us.
Yes, ma'am.
Once we do that, within the next 5 years, we should have a very responsive program for this community where we're doing short-term work, and we'll have enough bed space that we'll be able to offer people a longer period of time to stay with us so that we can work on job skills, credit issues, more of that self-esteem, to give us a little more time to really help strengthen these families so that when they're ready to leave us, they're not going to have to make decisions to go back into an abusive relationship. So I think we've got a very bright future ahead of us, and we can't do it, though, without the community.
Correct.
Domestic violence is not just a women's issue, it's an issue of our entire community. So this is an issue that our community has to embrace, and you know, funding and helping a program like ours actually in the long run saves this community money, saves us financially, because if we don't stop the cycle of domestic violence, it will continue, and we'll see second generations committing violence, and that's something that's going to continue to burden our society. So, you know, if we can provide shelter and safe shelter, we're stopping that cycle of violence. So that's the goal here, and it's a goal that this community has got to embrace and support for us.
Do you have to be a resident of Mecklenburg County in order to be involved in your program, or the outside counties? Someone to know.
That's our first priority, anyone that lives or works in Mecklenburg County. We certainly will discuss with someone coming from other areas, but you know, with the need that we have right
Correct.
here, and the fact that we are typically full most all the time, it's very difficult to bring someone in from another area because the need here in Mecklenburg County is so great.
Okay. What do you feel as far as networking with other agencies? How important is that with your program, with the Shelter for Battered Women?
Well, it's very important. We serve on several committees in the community. Members of my staff do. So it's vitally important that we network, that people understand what we're doing, that the community understands the dynamics of domestic violence and how they can help. So we are very, very active in this community with the criminal justice system, the Department of Social Services system, the healthcare system. So we're in there every little way that we can be.
Okay. I got a question. What made you get involved with the Shelter with Battered Women? Yourself.
Well, I personally, I was raised by two people who were in the giving field. My father was a minister and my mother was a nurse, so I think I was just, you know, predestined for some sort of social work. And I just kind of evolved into it when I went back to graduate school and got a job working part-time at the shelter, and just kind of grew up with the shelter along the way.
Okay, Ms. Taylor, I would like to thank you for being a guest on the show.